Hey, hello everybody. It is Thursday, May 11th, 2023, and this is the Backdrop bi-weekly community meeting where we discuss issues related to the community and how to bring people together. How we usually start these meetings is we go around the room and do some introductions. I'll start with myself. My name is Greg. I'm usually in Australia, but now joining from Greece, Europe. And yeah, generally interested in anything related to Backdrop and any way that I can help. And I'll pass it on to Luke.
Hi, I'm Luke McCormick, sell here on various internets. I'm a web project manager in beautiful San Ramon, California, where it's bright and sunny at the moment. And I'll throw it to, who wants it? Nobody's unmuted. So let's say Martin.
Hello, I'm Martin. I'm a web developer in Northeast England, United Kingdom. Work mainly building websites and also on a number of contrib modules. We'll go to Justin.
I'm Justin Kaiser. I'm in Muncie, Indiana, and I help out with Backdrop contrib modules and sometimes core. So I can't see everyone because you're all really tiny, so I don't know who's.
Yeah, no worries. Let's see. Let's go with Savastri if you're online. You're muted, Savastri. So. There you go.
So I'm in Walnut Cove, North Carolina. My name is Sarva Shri, and I'm interested in promoting Backdrop and learning more about it. And let's see, who hasn't been done yet? Luke?
Team.
I think it's just me. So My name is Tim Erickson. I'm in Deerwood, Minnesota. I'm St. Paul Tim on the internet. And yeah, that's about it. And we got Martin, didn't we?
Yes,
we've
got the
You're listed as Nate on the.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're Nate.
So we were a little bit negligent in scheduling a topic for this week. So we're improvising a bit. And we thought we have a release coming out in 4 days. The 1.25, is that correct? The 1.25 release is coming out of Backdrop with some new features in it. And we thought we would take today to sort of look ahead at 1.26, maybe talk about things people would like to see in that next release, and also talk about how folks can contribute and participate in that. And we thought maybe a good way to start this would be to just, for anybody who's new to the core development process or the release cycle, Greg can tell us a little bit about how Backdrop manages its releases and what that schedule looks like.
Yep, sure. So we have what is called a minor release every 4 months, and it's on May 15th, September 15th, and then January 15th. What happens 2 weeks before its releases, we have what we call a feature freeze. So usually around the 1st of May, 1st of September, and 1st of Jan, we pause whatever code gets in that is a feature request, like a major change to the UI or something new that was not there before. There's several bug fix releases that can happen between these releases, but the any new features that people are excited about get only 3 times a year. That's why they're important. So yeah.
Okay.
I should also mention that usually before its feature freeze and before its final release, we usually gather together, mention some days and times where we do what we call code sprints or contribution sprints. And what we do with that is we coordinate and most likely over a Zoom call or synchronously via our chat, a Zulip chat. And we try to get new features in if it's a feature freeze about to happen, or finalize the release and fix any issues in that may have appeared in the 2 weeks between the feature phrase and the end, the final release. So yeah, and it would be a good idea to, if anyone feels like code spreading in the next 3-4 days, maybe just say, yeah, schedule it.
So yeah, just ping folks in Zulip is a good place to coordinate that. This weekend would be still an opportunity. What day of the week is the 15th? Is that next Monday?
So
I
it's
think?
Monday. Yes, it's
Yeah.
Monday.
So Monday would be the actual release, but this weekend would be an opportunity. And again, we can't get big new features into this next release yet, as Greg just said, but we can fix bugs, make small UX improvements, things like that. Why don't we'll go ahead and talk about, we were just talking about sort of, if you want to see what we've gotten into the next release, this is the GitHub issue queue for Backdrop core. It's a special issue queue called Backdrop-issues. And one of the things you can do is filter by a milestone. So we can pick the 1.25 milestone to see which issues got in. We have 5 issues that are open. So these are things like the checklist, and other issues that didn't make it. These will probably get reassigned to 1.26, but there are 17 closed issues. Presumably all of these got merged and got into the next issue. So these are some of them are kind of obscure backend things, but a few of them, like add a mini pager option to search module results, add context from layouts to be passed into view blocks. Anyways, so anybody can kind of read through those to see what's happening. And we'll also just show you, if you wanted to, we have if you wanted to help us test these features, we do have, you can either go to GitHub, and we have a preview release that you can download and install on an existing site to test out and make sure that none of these new features are going to break anything. The other thing you can do is go to backdrop.org, and if you go to the main page, there's a link on demoing Backdrop. The demo Backdrop would be the latest stable version. If you want to try the dev version, you can click on more ways to try and then scroll way down to the bottom. We were talking about the fact that this is a little hard to find. That's partially intentionally, because we don't want people testing the dev version accidentally, but we do want to make it available if people know what they're doing. So if you come down here, you can click try the dev version, and you can actually spin up a site right here on in our sandbox site. So you don't have to install this locally. This would be a sandbox that's using the latest version of the main of the 1x branch. So it would have anything going into the dev version would be here. So
another thing,
Tim, could you briefly flip back to the GitHub page where you had the preview release?
Absolutely. Yep. Right here. This does also list the new features. Actually, I wasn't sure if it did or not, but that's another way to see what's coming.
That's why. How'd you get there?
The way I got there was in the regular page. The tags are releases. So if you click on this, you'll see all the different. There might be a better way to get here. So if anybody else knows a better way to get here, let us know.
If you click on the releases on the right-hand side of it, so go back to the code page, and then go over to the right-hand side, far right-hand side, and down.
Releases right here.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then
that gives you that takes you directly to the most recent release.
Yep.
And then scroll down and you'll see the others below it.
Right, the 165. So that kind of gets us to the same place.
Yep.
Although both of those sort of that might be a little friendlier way.
While you were showing that, I got an idea. Maybe we could link from the release notes into the sandbox page. Like maybe we can make it a task, a template here to link to the sandbox.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that if people are looking at this, it directs them to where they can spin up a sandbox. So if you spin up a sandbox, you're testing the releases, but you're testing it on a fresh, clean site, right? Something else, as we were talking about right before the meeting, if you have your own site, or if you're a developer and you have test sites that you can apply the preview release to, that would be really helpful for us to make sure that there aren't any conflicts on existing sites. But we would not encourage anyone to apply the preview release to a live site because it's still a little bit unstable. We're still fixing bugs.
So let's talk about this publicity thing just for a moment. Like, I'm following the path. Like, if somebody were coming into the backdropcms.org homepage, who would be interested in this? Who would be part of our audience of people that we, would like to have check out new releases? Do they have any way to find it? Do they have? I don't think it shows up in our news or on the.
Actually, yeah. There's one thing where people can find it, but I just checked it while you guys were browsing things around, and it's on me. I haven't even updated it for the last release, and shame on me. If you give me 12 to 24 hours, I'll update it for both this release and the next one. But if you hover over about, there's a roadmap page, right? And I actually have not updated it for the last release, and that's on me. So if you click that, it actually takes you to a page. It doesn't even list. See, it says features planned for version 124, but it has already been released. So I need to update that and put the 125 release there. Sorry, I apologize to the entire community.
Your apologies are accepted, but that's not really even the issue. Like, no one's going to find that anyway. So I'm more just curious. I mean, we do have this. We have out in the world we have very technical users. Some of them, of course, are non-technical business types, but we've got a fair share of sort of web developers, I'm sure, that flow into here. And I just wonder how we have them find us. I mean, I'm sure there's people that sweep by that would know how to help with these things, but have no idea that we want that, no idea that they're needed. So what I think of it is maybe some tag, some button, some announcement somewhere saying like, we're in beta testing for the next release. If you're curious, come here and lend a hand.
Yeah, I see your point. I think on our existing system, without making changes, the way to do it would be a blog post. But I think there could be a better way to do that, and we need to think about that.
And I think we did do some blog posts for the previous releases that were along the lines of, hey, help us test the new releases. Because if you go to the news and blogs, you will see that there's some blogs there for the past
we have done it on occasion, yeah, but I don't think we've done it reliably.
How about in the Backdrop news section of the dashboard, right? In the one that you spun up, there's a generic dashboard that you could see.
Right. Well, I didn't actually spin up a site yet, did I?
But you can do that.
Yeah, I can do it. Yeah. It's going to take just a minute, but yeah, on the dashboard, we do have announcements, and it could go there. I think at least once we did that. I'm always a little bit not sure, like whether that's, whether that's the right place to promote previews, because this is going to a very broad audience of folks. But in the Backdrop news here on the dashboard, we could announce that.
The releases go there, right?
Yes. Well, they should. They don't always, but they should. Yeah. We try to do that.
Okay.
No.
So I would think people know what beta means, what test release means, and I think our community of hands-on web developers are the type of people that would that download beta versions of things.
Yeah, I kind of agree on that to the point that maybe the announcement of the pre-release and the announcement of the release maybe also deserve a special place in that Backdrop news dashboard there. the block.
Sure. I mean, I could see that as being a block in itself, although do we have,
Or a static bullet point in that list.
Like
Just-
latest release or something? Or I don't
Well,
know. Is that what you mean, Greg?
okay, this is interesting because I wasn't sure if this would actually even show up here, but it does. I mean, not
look
that
at
this is a visible place for people to find it, but if you check for updates, it does show that the preview is available. Actually, this almost concerns me because it doesn't properly communicate that this is kind of a beta.
Well, it does, but you need to be aware. So
Right.
among all the lists, see how it says that the recommended version, even for
Yeah.
what you're running now, is 24.2.
Yeah.
So the other ones, the one that you have currently installed, which is the dev version, and the preview are not. They're marked as latest, but not recommended,
Okay.
and not in bold text, certainly. Yeah.
Good. So better communicating, about preview releases and stuff would be helpful. I want to say one more thing in terms of if anybody is interested in helping this week and get ready for the last release. And if you're not so much a coder, but you would like to help test things, you can go into our issue queue here and look for the label like needs testing. And there are issues, there may be, actually what we would be looking for would be like bug fix. If you did a bug fix, or milestone candidate minor, this would be, bug fix, milestone candidate bug. If you combine that and testing, you're going to get a bunch of issues that need people to look at them and test them out. And that would be a way you can help. And oftentimes, there are, for all of these, there should be a pull request and a link here where you can get a sandbox site where you can test the site. So we can click on that. Occasionally this happens, and then we have to, this usually just means that the issue is old and we need to refresh the sandbox. So if this happens to you, just post a note in the issue saying we need to refresh the sandbox.
Yeah, what
But
we can do
anyways.
is if we go back to the filtering page, another way to find, especially help us with this release, is if you set the milestone to the 125, it doesn't include only features, as you can see. It has the bug fixes as well. So this is another way to help us test. So you can see that there is already one of them that says PR needs testing. So yeah, that's another way to find the issues that need testing. And this includes both bugs and tasks.
Well, I thought we only tagged milestone with the features and that any bug fixes would just go into the other. I didn't.
Yeah, and I can
wouldn't have
explain. Yeah, I can explain why this is happening, because if we have a follow-up issue with something that was caused by something that was merged in the 2125, we can't put it. Yeah.
Got it. Yep.
So this helps in this case because we know that these are the non-feature tasks and bugs that we need to fix until the next release. So these are sort of like up on our list. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And I probably knew that, but I forgot about that. Okay. Should we spend the rest of our time and move on and talk about the next release? I know, Greg, you had something maybe you were going to show us that you were working on. The other thing, and maybe before we do that, what I'd like to do is remind people that, so in planning for our future releases, first of all, the issues that get in are the ones that have a momentum and that people are excited about and willing to work on. But if you have one way that you can sort of help influence the process of what issues that get into Backdrop is on our forum, we have a survey. It's listed here as the wish list. And we use the term vote, but there's nothing binding about these votes. It's a way for you to express your interest in particular issues. So you can, these are all of the feature requests in GitHub are reflected here. And you can scroll through them. You can find issues that you think are important and vote for them. And then occasionally our core developers look at this and we talk about it. And we particularly look at the top of that list and say, what are the ones that we have that people are interested in and we have resources to deal with. probably the one that's getting the most attention right now on this list is field group functionality in core. That is actually getting some attention. It's near the top of our list and is something that we could probably see in 1.26. But the more people who vote on this, the better, and you can change your vote. So if you voted in this survey before, maybe your priorities have shifted in the last 6 months, and you can. So here I've already voted for automatic updates. I could remove my vote for that and vote for add an icon font in core instead. There we go. You can just toggle these. You do have to be logged in to vote. Does anybody have any questions or comments about this process? Has anybody here updated their votes in the last 6 months? I'm pretty sure you all have voted in the past. But I recommend, I every few months tend to look at this page and kind of, sometimes my priorities have shifted based on previous things that have got in. So
how do you get to this feature requests page? It's not.
You just go. It's called the wish list.
Oh, it's up there.
It's in the forum. It's in the main header. So on any page in the forum, you'll see the wish list link, and you can click on that. If you should be able to, if you go to your profile on the forum, you should be able to, you see conversations, but if you scroll down, I guess I've started a few conversations on the forum. Wow. If you scroll down, you get a list of the things that you voted for. So sometimes I might say, well, if I vote for too many things, they sort of compete against each other. So sometimes I'll, weed out a few of the things that are less important to me and maybe add some others that I think are important.
I put something in as an initiative proposal this week that's probably more properly just a feature request.
Yeah, maybe. If you get it in GitHub, then you can vote for it and you can advocate, lobby for it, campaign for it, get people to vote for it. So I try about once a month, I tend to post the list of the top 10 issues on this poll in Zulip, just to remind our core developers. Again, there's nothing binding about this, but when people keep seeing that, what issues are on top, they tend to, sometimes people are looking for what should I work on, and this can influence them. And we have gotten a number of what were previously, top 3 issues have gotten into core. Things like reference module in core is a good example of one that did get in.
And it's worth noting that some of these are at the top of a list. It's just that they're not so easy to implement, or it takes time. That's why they don't get implemented. So it's not that we're ignoring the votes there. It's just that they're not. Maybe they depend on other things and subsystems that need to be put in place first. So that's why, for example, the automatic updates has been high on that list for a couple of years now, but there's other things that need to happen infrastructure-wise, and
they're out there, just technical blockers. But if you have the skills to help us break down those blockers, that would be great. I happen to know that the add an icon font in core is kind of stuck by just really needing to define what that means. This means different things to different people, so this might not be a hard one to solve technically if we made it sort of a policy decision of what we mean by that. How would we add an icon font to core? What would that look like? There are several different competing visions for that, I think, and we just haven't resolved that. So that's why this one doesn't get in. So this is something, if you're not a programmer, but can help us just project plan this and come to a consensus, I think we could get this issue solved if we just had somebody that sort of helped us guide the discussion and bring us to a decision.
Yeah, from memory, it's basically there needs to be a decision of which font we are going to add, and is it the job of core to actually provide the font, or just the foundations so that fonts can be added easily. So if we are to actually ship with core, an icon font, we need to actually select one. And that's where we're stuck, but yeah.
One of the ways advocate or issue, one of the ways that anybody can help get something into core, if you're not a developer, is, and this is a blog post that I wrote a few years ago, is you can become an advocate for a feature in core. And basically, if you're willing to sort of help shepherd that issue, become kind of a project manager, or Luke, what would in the corporate world, would this be like the project owner or something? Would you call them? It's, somebody who's sort of pushing for and advocating for an issue. And you don't actually have to be the one to solve it, right? You're the one who's sort of guiding the decision forward. And go ahead. Did you want to?
No. I mean, product owner is actually pretty close to that.
Okay.
So yeah.
And so basically, once you advocate, once we have an advocate for only one person can advocate for one issue at a time. But once we have an advocate, we can put something on the milestone list, which means it gets more attention at meetings and it's more likely to be looked at and get attention. So one of the ways you can really help get something from this list into core is to just by agreeing to be an advocate, and then maybe helping summarize the issue, advocating for it at meetings if you're able to attend, or just posting periodic updates in the issue queue. That can really move things forward. Any other thoughts on that? So, Greg, you had, are you advocating for this issue that you wanted to show us?
It's for the next release. We want to say next to the next release. So it's it's for 126.
Yeah, well, that's what we're talking about now is 126, right? Cool. We can't get any new features into 1.25, so.
Yeah, so it started.
Well, Greg probably could.
It started as a developer feature. So let me find the issue first. Yep. Let me share my screen, and I actually need to be careful what I'm sharing because there's job-related things as well.
Be careful.
Yes. All right.
Death Star plans and the like.
All right. So this is issue 14. It's one of the old issues. It started in 2015 when the project started, right? And it was a feature that was added in Drupal 8. And it basically, and I'll make my screen the font size a bit larger. And what it does is this hashtag description help text is basically a developer feature. So when you're working with forum elements, you can specify where the help text for each element is placed. Sorry, this specific one actually describes what the help text will be. So basically you have an element and you want to add some description text, and maybe it's, let me find something. So let's do that. Right, and what I've done here, and I'll make this a little bit larger as well, right, is I've edited the default page content type. So if you go to structure and then content types and then page and configure it, what I've done is by default, it doesn't have any help text, but I've added, where is it? If I go to manage fields, the body field, I've configured it and I've added it. I've added this help text here, right? And this is usually to help your, this help text can be added to any field in any form that you have, either if you're adding fields in a content type, or if you're doing it programmatically via a module. For example, for the settings, help text can be found here, right, in different places, right? So we have different places where we explain what the different elements in the form, how they work, right? And what this text is can be added via a description property programmatically. And in Drupal 8, they made that description position configurable. And the reason why they've done it is because, as you can see with certain form elements, by default, the help text is added at the bottom of the form element here. So if you have lengthy form elements, then the help that is meant to be there to guide people into what to do with the form element gets lost. So sometimes you need to scroll up and down if you are depending on the description, and it's not good user experience, right? So this would have been a developer feature, but I have made, and I should add the DX here as well, but it's a DX, which means developer experience, but it's a developer experience improvement that can actually improve user experience, right? It would allow people to specify where the element can sit. And how this was implemented in Drupal 8 was that there was already a property that was title display that would allow you to place the title of form elements. So, for example, you could place the title of this, maybe this doesn't make sense. You could say, this is the title of this element, and I want to place it after. It's currently before the element. Maybe you want to place it in line or whatever, right? So following that standard, it was decided to add a new property, which is called description display, and then allow it to have before, after, and invisible properties. There were some discussions about adding also a both, which would render the same help description here and here, so in both places. Right.
Interesting.
But I think that was discarded, but yeah, maybe a contrib module can do that.
Right.
So I was working on actually implementing that, and I had a pull request going, but that pull request in one of its earlier manifestations as of a few minutes ago had a line in it that was saying, oh, if you want to see this in action, because you cannot change the code in one of the sandboxes, you would need to pull it on your local, set it up, and then play with that line and change it so that you can see everything, like the text, this text, move above the field or make it invisible and so on. And then I had another thought, and what I've done, and I'll go directly to the pull request because I've pushed the code changes there just to see if it actually works so that people can test it after this meeting. So if you go to the issue, as I said, in the issue queue is number 1403. On the sidebar here, that's where the pull request lies. So you can click that and follow the link. And then if you scroll to the bottom, you should find this section where it gives you a link, username, and a password. So I'll fire up the sandbox. Right, let's log in. And as I was saying, you would need to play around with these things. But what I've done is, if I go to appearance now, is I've added a settings page in the 7th theme. And you can specify where you want things to be now. And this has become a form that I have ideas for. So maybe we can make it a standard form that other themes can add it in their settings. So this can be a per theme setting. And what this does, and I'll make it a little bit larger here, is field sets. This is actually a field set. The description help text for the field set is up here, which is the opposite of what happens for other elements. And the reason why I've separated radius and checkboxes from the rest of the elements, this basically acts as a default, is I'll show you why. It doesn't look good if you place the help text above. And then, yeah, this basically allows you to set a default. And what this thing here does is, if the programmer, the developer actually has explicitly set the display for an element, if you would like to respect it or override it with these things. So you can set your theme to basically handle how the help text is applied. So, for example, if I set this for field sets to after the element, you should see this help text come at the bottom here. So I'll save the form, and if it works, yep, it got moved here. So all field sets for this theme will now move their help text here, right? And so I'll put it back to before the element, and I'll change the radius and checkboxes to before the element. So this should move this help text above here, and move this back to where it was. So if things work well, yeah. And this is why I said it doesn't look well. It doesn't look good. So if I go to configuration, yeah, let's do the search settings. you will see. So this is where for radius and checkboxes, the individual help text doesn't look well well, it's an opinion we can discuss, right? But I've made the default to be after anyways, and I've made it configurable with independently of the default. So you can set yep, I want everything to be before the element, but for checkboxes I just want you to leave it alone because it doesn't look good. So basically field sets and radius I've identified as exceptions. So if I refresh the page here, you should see this remains under the checkbox and radius. But for these elements, for example, it has moved it above the element. And how that helps is, I don't know if I make I hope that the screen follows. So maybe this justifies things for people that prefer it that way, right? So yeah, that's it.
Okay, well, it's actually a Drupal 8 site I'm working on right now. I just ran into that issue. So are you saying this has been solved in Drupal core? You have the ability to do this already?
Yes, since Drupal 8, actually.
Okay.
So when I raised that issue, let me go back to the issue. Yep, maybe it wasn't. So I filed, Graham actually filed the issue back in 2015, and the change record for this being implemented in Drupal was August. Yeah, so it was an early thing with Drupal 8. So since Drupal 8.0.
Oh, interesting. But yeah, I didn't think that this was in core. I know there were in Drupal 7 there were contrib modules, I think, for this.
Yes, and this is related to other things, and that's where I would like it to evolve. And the reason why you might have not noticed it is because Drupal 8 core doesn't include anything that takes advantage of this. It was added as a developer feature for those developers.
Oh, I see.
Right. So
there's nothing in the UX to change it.
Yes,
Oh.
There's nothing. But other modules can take advantage of it, right?
Okay.
And then we had some related issues, and this is where I thought that this would become handy. I'll find one of the related issues. Maybe it was discussed. So this is again early screenshots discussed back in 2015, where the issue becomes more apparent and how we can solve it, right? So if you are adding if you're adding a form in your custom module or theme that has this issue, you will now have an option to place this in a place where it provides better user experience. But I'm taking it a step further than that. And what I'm doing is, and I'll tell you why. All right, so we had an issue for it, and this is what I'm trying to find. There have been requests where people want to hide the help text and move it into a balloon help text with a question mark icon here. So maybe something themes can implement via hook a separate property which says, so we have description display, and core will provide the before, after, and invisible, but contrib modules may provide both, which means it's moved both ways, or tooltip, which basically makes it a tooltip. And I think we have a core issue for that. Maybe I'm mentioning it somewhere else.
Okay. Well, we're running out of time. If anybody has any quick comments or questions on this, I'd like to also just see if anybody else has anything they're excited about for 1.26.
I'm going to try to figure out how to stop sharing.
Yeah, that happens all the time. So I just went and voted. I went and voted for this issue on the wish list. I'm the first one. I've wanted this before.
Yeah, so this was my my last comment from 4 days ago, where I was explaining what the problem is basically, and I say, all right, these work well if you move the help text above, but these don't. And why you want to configure it? And I'm going to add, yeah, and I'm going to add a comment here to explain what I've done now. Now, if I can find how to stop sharing, because I've lost the controls. Where the heck are they?
I wonder, can I stop you from sharing?
Yeah, if you can do that, because I found it. There
Okay,
you,
there we
there
go.
you go, found it.
Does anybody else have anything they're excited about for the next release? Oh, am I still Nate Lampton? I am. I never changed my name. I'm not Nate Lampton, guys. I'm Tim. I think the big one is field groups in core or field groups has been very close to finished for really the last two releases. We almost got it in 1.23, I think, or 1.24. And then it could have gotten into 1.25 if we had given it a little bit more attention. And I think hopefully since so much work has went into it already, let's try and get that into 1.26. It's been near the top of our list for a long time.
Yeah, where that issue was the most recent discussions was about, do we add all features from the contrib module in, and we decided on a shorter list,
Yeah,
and still leave the rest of the items for contrib. And also the consensus between Jen and Herb, who have been working on that as pull request and the contrib maintainers, was that they would prefer to do some of the improvements in the contrib module before they move the code into core. So that's last I recall.
okay. Anybody else have a wish list that they'd like to see in the next release? If you are watching the video and would like to later on and would like to get something in the next release, then let us, go fill out the survey, create an issue in the core issue queue, or come talk to us in Zulip. Those are all ways you can lobby for or advocate, at least get something on our agenda, or, get something on the radar. Very much what features get into core are just the ones people are talking about, right? And you can get a feature into core just by talking about it enough and getting people interested. Hey, let's wrap up this meeting. Thanks, everybody. And get ready for our dev meeting, which is coming up in a few minutes. Thanks.
Okay.